Okay, and here we are, friends. We have now officially started another brilliant live stream here on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore. We haven't done a live stream in a while. Got a few complaints, which is justified. You guys kind of I think these live streams maybe better than all the videos that I actually do. It's one of those ironic things that in a lot of ways I think the live streams are actually a little bit more interesting than the videos, which require editing and creating beautiful icons and all this other stuff. But what can I tell you? But for anyways, for someone who's watching right now, the topics we're going to cover, partially by my choice, partially by viewer demand, has to do with my health situation. You might be curious. April 6th is a big meeting in my life, which is very important, related to the American village. Our main topic for today from the audience, 15-minute cities in Russia. And that's going to be our first topic. And then we're going to briefly touch on the digital ruble. In fact, I lied. We'll touch on the digital ruble right now. And remember, if you want to raise your hand and chit-chat with me, you're free to use the raise your hand feature. And if you have any questions, if you write anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore, that any sort of comments, those will all go into the overall chat, as I call it, and it'll be visible no matter where you post. So go nuts. I'll see them. Probably the best, most logical place to post would be under the picture that says Telegram live stream starts in 15 minutes. But you don't have to. I'll keep the whole thing open and try to keep it straight. Anyways, guys, thanks for being with me. Today is probably not the best day to be doing this on, a Monday, but what can I do? Today I have the energy. I'm finally feeling better. So let's first really quickly talk about the digital ruble, or I should say something that I can see from your guys' reactions. People are very concerned about the digital ruble. What is this thing going to be? From certain sources, I've heard that it's so crypto, it's so blockchain, it's amazing. And then I've heard that it is not crypto and not blockchain. I don't even know what to think. And you know what? Because I don't know what to think, I asked around for some friends, and I'm going to continue to ask people that I know. Give me some time. Give me some time here. I'm going to continue to ask people that I know to try to find these like top-level Russian economists who might be able to come on here and talk. The problem is the guys who are the most famous, none of them speak English well. So that's kind of a downer. And I know people always say, Tim, it doesn't matter. Just have them come on and then translate it. You have no idea what it's like to translate an hour-long video. Even with the whole thing of like maybe just trying to auto-translate it, the amount of copying and pasting, no, I can't do it, guys. I do not have the free time or the energy. You're talking about almost like a few entire work days worth of effort just to do one interview right. So we're not going to do that. We're going to wait till we find an economist who knows what they're talking about, but also speaks English. That would be very important because, unfortunately, like the top economists in the country, like I know Sergei Glaziev reads English. That's for sure. I'm absolutely well aware of that. And he reads very well. But that doesn't mean he's willing to. That doesn't mean he speaks it. That doesn't mean he's willing to come on this program. So we'll see about that. But I'm going to promise to try to find some expert opinions on this digital ruble, so they can actually offer you real information. Whereas, you know, this is going into like high-level economics and high-level tech, and that's beyond me. Okay, so that's it for the digital ruble. Stay tuned. Anyways, now about the 15-minute cities, that was our main topic for today, because as usual, guys, unfortunately, the way things kind of go with these live streams, I really never know when I'm going to do them. It would be much better to have like a specific day of the week and a specific time and always do it then. But unfortunately, the way I kind of live my life, it doesn't work out. So we're doing it today because today I can do it. But anyways, our main topic, and again, we only have sort of one topic on offer because I didn't give people much time to pick them. 15-minute cities in Russia. That's interesting. That's very interesting to me. I'm finding this 15-minute city phenomenon to be quite fascinating, but also to be quite Western European. Because when we see this, it seems like it's really the places that are sort of on the forefront really seems to be like England, or I should say the Great Britain. I should be more global with that. The United Kingdom. It seems to be where it's happening the most and where they're trying to really implement this. And trust me, with the way that like urban design and all that works in like Belgium and the Netherlands, they're going to be next. So again, because a lot of phenomenon spread, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, well, they're only doing that in England, so it'll never spread to Russia or anywhere else. No, guys. Technologies, ideologies spread quickly. You know what I mean? So, but for now, it's sort of a Western European phenomenon. But I can tell you one thing, that this phenomenon in England, this idea that we're going to divide the country up into walkable blocks and kind of like in the old Soviet Union, restrict your ability to go from like sub-districts of your country. Because remember, in the Soviet Union, this whole thing, you'll probably know if you've tried to come here or live, especially live here or immigrate here, is the precious permanent address, also known as your registration. And that comes from the Soviet Union. So in the Soviet Union, you could travel all over the Soviet Union, but you kind of had to either stay with relatives or stay at an official hotel. And technically, you were really only supposed to be working and spending your daily life in the region where you had your internal passport. And yes, they had an internal passport in the Soviet Union, which is why all Russians today have their internal passports still, which is your main form of ID. On the one hand, kind of sounds totalitarian. On the other hand, that one single proof of ID is really convenient. So, but anyway, so the Soviet Union, one thing that would happen a lot of times on the collective farms, so the legend goes, is very often they would sort of take away people's passports, so that way they couldn't go to other regions of Russia and work there, which is kind of ironic because, you know, one of the whole points of communism was to sort of free people from the life of peasantry and feudal serfdom, but they kind of just redid it again by a different bureaucratic means. So long story short, the way I understand this, because obviously I didn't live through it and I kind of heard it explained, is sort of like you're registered in, you know, Nizhny Novgorod, okay? So you can like go to Moscow and maybe like, again, visit relatives or something. Or if you stay at a hotel, they would tell the police where you are. But in general, you know, you can't just like kind of go to Moscow and just pick up a job and start working the next day, or just start living in Moscow because you like it, because you're registered in Nizhny Novgorod, right? And I picked Nizhny Novgorod randomly, and Nizhny Novgorod was, I think, technically a closed city. So I think most people from Moscow couldn't even visit Nizhny Novgorod without special permission. I think that's the way that was. But long story short, there were definitely certain areas and certain cities that were just closed off that you just sort of couldn't go to without the proper documentation. So that, but why did they do it? The logic behind it, I think, had to do with the whole planned economy, and you needed to be where you are at in the planned economy. And that, you know, if everyone just has the free will to go get jobs wherever they want, a lot of people might gravitate to the big cities. That was one advantage, I think, of communism. Was that it was good for small towns because it gave you something to do for the same salary as the big city in your small town. So if you like small town life, communism kind of kept those small towns afloat for a long time. But on the other hand, if you gave everyone freedom of movement under communism, and people could just kind of go wherever they want and try whatever they want and change jobs all the time, that would be terrible for a planned economy, especially a planned economy in the early days of computing, you know, where, well, the sort of pre-internet computing days. So that's why so that's sort of the logic, I think, is it had to do with, you know, well, and also they want to know who everyone was. So let's put this in the context of 15-minute cities, because we have this example from Russian history that is in connection with these 15-minute cities. Well, the logic of the Soviet Union, like I said, is probably economic, probably as an identification system, because they definitely want to have control over your lives. Do people in the Western powers, especially the globalists, want to have control over your lives? Yes, but the logic has nothing to do with the economy. This is all the environmental stuff. So the sort of idea that if you stay in one place and you're kind of stuck there just to walk, somehow this saves the environment. So again, the logic of these two things is very, very different, okay? Now, about Russian 15-minute cities, because of this whole thing in the Soviet Union of making it kind of difficult to travel even in your own country. When the 1990s came about and communism fell, one good thing they put in the Constitution of Russia is that everyone has the freedom of movement. People are free to leave Russia. They are free to go around Russia. They are free to move from one location to another, so on and so forth. And so, at the very least, Russia has a nice constitutional shield, sort of against any sort of restriction on where you're going. So, like during COVID, one thing that was very scary for the future of Russia that I've never liked is, well, on the one hand, it's kind of good, on the one hand, it's kind of bad. In order to get rid of the sort of corrupt traffic cops, they started to put up the cameras to monitor like speeding and all this other stuff. I don't know. I've kind of mixed feelings about that. But on the one hand, it is definitely nice to have less police around to stop you while driving. So that's nice. So on the one hand. But during COVID, it seemed to mean that certain cars with certain numbers, for certain reasons, it seemed like they were very, very so able to track those cars and almost create kind of like a border zone around Moscow to make sure who could come sort of in and out. But the weird thing is, because of this whole constitutional issue, it was kind of like they could kind of stop you, or they said you could only use your car twice a week for whatever reason because of COVID. But anyways, that really only happened for the most part in and around Moscow, from what I understand, like in the Moscow region around Moscow. Remember, people have trouble understanding this. Moscow, the city, is separate from the Moscow region legally. And the Moscow region, they didn't do any of this. So maybe as of recently, there was something that sort of resembled this like 15-minute city internal border. But on the other hand, if you weren't in a car, you could take a train, and go back and forth between the city and the region outside of it and other regions of Russia, basically unrestricted. So something is kind of there, but not really. But again, going back to the overall logic of why anyone would be doing this. And remember, guys, if you have something to comment, write basically anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore, and I'll see the comments below. Or you can raise your hand and we can talk. So again, going back to 15-minute cities, the overall logic is, though, that's very good, is that with COVID, for the beginning of it, the government sort of bought into it. But the whole like environmental thing, we're gonna die, Greta Thunberg, no, that doesn't exist here, and it's hard for you guys to believe it if you're a Western person, because your entire lives they have been beating the drum. The world's overpopulated. Human beings are some sort of blight on the planet. We're evil. We're bad. Our consumption is destroying everything. And I'm sure there's some people in the center of Moscow who think that way. But overall, in the news here, in the media, that idea doesn't exist. There is no coming crisis, the Malthusian crisis. Thank you, guys. Anytime I can use my favorite word, Malthusian, I'm always happy. Love the way the word sounds. It's a dark, fun word. So the Malthusian crisis that awaits the Western world, that everyone is absolutely and 100% convinced is real, doesn't exist in Russia. It's kind of like I can't even. What can I explain? Think like it's kind of like, say you're coming from America and you go to a you're from some generic place in America, and then you go to like some valley, like a lost, isolated valley in Afghanistan, and you're talking with people, and all of them are Muslim, and they believe it 100,000%. It would be very hard for you to be able to sort of like grasp that or understand it. It's just such a different way of thinking. You might be raised in a secular environment, and they're just incompatible. And that's like the whole environmentalism thing in Russians. It just doesn't exist here. So the good thing about this idea of 15-minute cities is that there's no basis for it in Russia. Like the idea, like the ideological seeds that need to be planted to get the bureaucrats and other idiots and ties to kind of make this happen. It's just not here. So there's no talk of it, no discussion. And thankfully, due to Russia's climate, there have been a few planted individuals in like the Moscow, what do you want to call it? It's like city government. There's this one kind of ugly, red-haired, like liberal woman who got in as some sort of like city councilor, and she wants to make Russians ride bicycles, and she's on that like bicycle crusade. But in Russia, it doesn't work. Like no one just doesn't. You only like a handful of like really, really, really super pro-Western freaks think that they can transform Russia into a bicycle country. It's just not happening. So I can tell you one thing, that the whole concept of a 15-minute city, of being forced to do everything within walking distance, doesn't really exist here. About sort of having life planned around that, to be honest, most of Russia, I guess, again, thanks to communism, is sort of already planned that way, to sort of have it be like in every little city, there's these different sort of, micro districts that they sort of organize things where each micro district has sort of the same amount of stuff. So, is there a hospital within walking distance or public transport distance of where you live in a Russian city? Yes. Is there a school that does the same thing? Yes. So there's just really no need to do it. I think also with these 15-minute cities, one thing is it might not even be environmental, but I think this might even be a sort of blowback from the war in Ukraine. Of it's kind of like, well, if we're going to have a lot less energy resources, how can we trick people into finally behaving in a way, the stupid, unwashed masses, how can we get them to use way less energy? No transport. Because remember, we're sort of our globalist friends are kind of turning the entire Western world into a padded, comfortable, humane slaughterhouse. And I could see them thinking of it that way, that like, okay, well, we just keep everyone maybe not trapped in their homes, but trapped in this sort of little box region, then essentially they'll all just continue their economic activity on laptops, and not be able to have any relationships or children or function, and they'll just kind of like slowly, comfortably, die out. If we're going to think of things in this true Malthusian context. Oh, it's a glorious day whenever I can use that word. So anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on 15-minute cities. I really don't think that this phenomenon could come to Russia because, again, the landscape doesn't allow for it. There's no ideological seeds to it. It just sort of doesn't really make sense. And also, furthermore, again, Russia is already a very spread out country. It's kind of like, how would you do it? And even during like the worst of COVID, it was never like that. So I don't know. And also, again, these are the sort of people who, of maybe people who in Russia who might be pro-globalist, they're only in it for the money. Like, again, this is one thing we've talked about before, that like if someone in Russia is a really based on Russian culture, if someone is Russian and they're evil, they're really, really, really only concerned with getting money, the maximum amount of money any way they can. That's like the Russian form of evil or bad behavior. It's weird, but generally they don't tend to go into this like, I don't know, Bill Gatesian thing where it's like, okay, I've made billions of dollars, now I've got to abort all those Hindus. Like, they just don't do that. I don't quite understand why they don't, but generally ultra-rich people here just don't really take it to some sort of like next tier ideological thing or fear that like if poor people have too much money they'll rise. It's just different. It's just very, very different in that way. So I think we're going to be okay. So that's our little talk on 15-minute cities. Well, let's have a little bit of American village news, and then we'll get to talking about my ongoing health problems. So with the on April 6th or 7th, I don't remember, we're going to finally, and I've been sort of holding back on that out of sort of political discipline to really push for the village, but we're at the State Duma. But I think this is going to finally be it. I think we're going to finally get them to really force all those stamps through because they have heard of the project. They are very excited about it, and I kind of didn't want to go to the State Duma because it's almost like an end around against, how should I put this, especially for foreign people listening. The Moscow regional government was working with me, with us, Tibor's involved, and helping us. And so I really didn't want to bring other people into it because I wanted, them to get the piece of the glory and for them, to get the, reap all the rewards and all that stuff. But we've had 3 months of silence, and at like the 3-month of silence mark, we got to get this baby going. So I might have offended some people in the regional government, but what can I do? So in the near future, I'm going to have to probably give another amazing speech, which I'm very good at, and sort of present the village idea to the higher powers, so that way they'll finally just put the damn stamps on all the things we need to just get the village operational. I hope you guys enjoyed that video with Joe Rose that we filmed recently. I kind of wanted to, I filmed a lot while I was there, and I kind of wanted to edit a video of it, but time keeps going on, and I just kind of can't find the time to do it, or the energy or creativity. I hate editing. I only like editing like simple stuff. That's like real editing, so I don't know. I'll eventually upload my own version of it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm kind of overloaded here. So anyways, there's hope for the American village coming up. We might actually finally get the right people in place to really, like I said, drive this baby home. Next, we're going to talk about then my health. So what happened? As I may have made some jokes in the chat there, remember, if you have any comments or something, these comments in the chat are not related. Remember, if you comment under anything, where it says leave a comment on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore, I'll see it here somewhere. It will magically appear right in front of me. You can raise your hand and talk to me. It's cool, baby. So, about my health. Well, I had, let's see, so I guess it would be this side of my neck. Oh boy, that doesn't feel good. Well, anyways, on this side of my neck, I had this sort of like lump growing, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and I got to about 2 centimeters. I went to see the doctor, and thankfully, through my work, I have, what's it called? Private medical insurance, because like with the Russian system, anything that isn't like an emergency is just a nightmare. I don't know. Every emergency situation I've had with like the free healthcare worked out great. Everything just the way you want it. Everything's awesome. As soon as you get into the realm of some sort of like long-term problem or something, it's just, well, the one thing is, even, it's funny, the guy who did the operation on my neck there at the private clinic, as we were talking, he even joked. He was like, man, you know what? I've seen this thing a million times before. I'm not going to make you go get blood tests. And what did he mean by that? Because generally, like, they have this obsession with blood tests. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter what you have, what problem, you're going to somehow have to give a blood test. I don't know if there's some sort of blood test mafia that makes a profit on all this. I don't know. But if you go to a public hospital in Russia, they're drawing blood. It doesn't matter what's wrong with you. You could have a scrape on your knee. They're still drawing blood. So, thankfully I didn't have to do that. And the guy, he saw that it was not a good cyst, but he said basically, hey, if this thing turns red, if it swells up, and if it starts hurting, you're going to have to come back. And so I think as a punishment for me being a traitor to my, hood roots, my simple working class background from Cleveland, when I was at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs party, this big event connected with the Russophile movement that they're putting together, I had to wear, a nice shirt and tie. I had to hurry and order a nice dress shirt. Actually, I had to hurry and buy a suit because I only had the blazer part. Blazer and jeans. I've been doing the MTV look for too long. It's time to get a real suit. But anyways, I think wearing the tie with the collar, something about that for a long time, something somehow kind of pushed into it. And so it started to swell up and get red, and it started to hurt. So I went back. The insurance covered it. And this guy, he was just, did it in the morning. And I was like, He's, I was like, can we do this now? And he's like, yeah, we can do it right now. And it was amazing. It only took like 10 or 15 minutes. The only part that hurt is, of course, putting the anesthesia in it. So he's got this weird cyst, and he's just like, I think he gave me like 7 shots. On the plus side, I didn't feel anything, but the shots were very painful. I'll put it that way. So, anyways, all I could really feel is that sort of feel like if you've ever sort of tried to take like off of a steak, like the sinew or these weird parts of it where you're kind of pulling and cutting it off. That's kind of doing to my neck the whole time. Oh, I can still feel there's kind of there's a little bit of a bump there, but I'm not sure if that's scarring. Oh, I hope, because he said this thing could come back. He said it very well could come back, which is not good news. I can live with the scar, but I do not want this thing to come back. But anyways, although it is kind of flat. I don't know. We'll see, won't we? But so anyways, I guess my recommendations to those who want to move here is, pay $45 or $50 a month or whatever it costs and get private health insurance. Because every time I have to do something at a private clinic, it's always so good. It's so fast. Like, they tell you come at 12. As soon as that clock ticks 12, you're in. None of that stuff. One thing I'll never understand as an American, how you can set like an appointment for 3 and then you always have to wait for 45 minutes. What is with the 45-minute wait at private healthcare? I don't understand it. But in Russia, and especially in Moscow, they just go, although it's one heck of a train ride to visit the doctor, but c'est la vie. Yeah. So they do it really, really quickly, really, really efficiently. They don't make you take 5 million blood tests for no reason. And it's just perfect. Like even for this, a good example was recently for the American Football League. All I wanted to do was get a document that sort of actually codifies or puts into writing a lot of the injuries I've had over the years. And, the guy started to write it. And then he's like, okay, go on to 6 floor. Okay, and he says this one word, despancier. And I've really never understood this, what despancier is, because it sounds like dispenser. And maybe those words are linked because you have to give a lot of tests, but it's essentially a gauntlet, a marathon of medical testing of like, blood and getting your lungs scanned and all this. And I'm just like, dude, all I wanted was a document that says all the injuries I've had. F off. Like, I didn't do it. And he was kind of mad, but I was like, what are you talking? Why do I need to do this? I need a document that shows my physical injuries, which I actually have, from other doctors in Russia. I have all the MRTs and all the scans. I just need him to sort of like codify it into one thing for football. And man, it turned into a big nightmare. So even just to get a piece of paper, they wanted me to take a blood test. So word of the wise, guys, get private healthcare insurance. Of course, you can rely on the Russian system. They will fix your problems, but man, are they not going to do it the way you want to. And if you live a busy jet-set lifestyle, you will definitely like private healthcare insurance for sure. So the thing is, though, I've released a pretty decent amount of videos this month, which is cool. I think we're doing good here, but not as many as I would have liked to, because that surgery really kind of knocked me out there. In fact, I'm still on some of the medication, but the one medication, I think it fell on the floor. Did it fall? Oh, no. Well, it comes in these packets. Dude, if you want something that'll, like, put you to sleep, I was in zombie land for, like, the first 24 hours of this. It was unbelievable. Completely knocked me out. So yeah, not good for the career, not good for making the money, which is part of my shtick, but kind of had to do it. So I'm in the process of recovery. I should go back to American football on Wednesday, all things considered, all things factored in. So that's a good thing. So anyways, guys, I'm not really seeing any questions here. Today's a quiet live stream. I also want to blow out my voice. I did a lot of voice acting, like on the week previous and then the week before that. So I'm kind of trying to go a little easier on the voice, not my usual blah, 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 today, especially it's late at night. So yeah, anyways, since we've got no questions, since we've got no one raising their hand, I guess I'm going to bail. So let's go over our topics real quick one more time for anyone who missed them. It was my health is doing better, but still not perfect, and get private insurance, and your experience at a Russian hospital will be a million times better. The efficiency level is just stunning. Oh, except that basically, I had to get the bandage changed like every other day after they did this. And the first time I went, I had the operation, and it was the next day. Okay, so they're like, got to change the bandage, got to for them to clean out the wound because they couldn't put stitches on it. I don't know why. I guess with a cyst, you can't put stitches on a cyst because they both start with the letter S. Wait, no, they don't. No, cyst starts with C. Oh my God, my brain is farting. Hold on, I gotta check this. I can't remember. I think it's SYST, cystic fibrosis. Yeah, okay. Oh man, that was embarrassing. But am I going to take the time to edit out of the live stream? No, I'm not the spelling overlord. Although I think my spelling is pretty good. So, anyways, they both start with the noise S. So the next day I had to go to this to get the bandage changed, to have them clean it out. No stitches. So they were kind of concerned that with like the way your head moves and stuff and sleeping, that it might open up on its own. Legitimate concern. I feel it. But like the doctor was one of these, because he was older, right? So it was the typical self-hating Russian throwing himself on his knees to prostrate himself before the glorious foreigner. I kind of thought the days of this were going to be over. I mean, it seems like every year the amount of that happens is kind of less and less and less. And after the war started, a lot of these people vanished. But he still had to spend the time, rather than like getting into my neck, yelling at me for moving to Russia, asking me all about all a million personal questions. Why the hell did I come here? Why would I come to a poor country like this? Am I an idiot? This, that, and the other. It's just like, oh, dude, work on my neck. But here's the problem, guys. One thing that I guess maybe I shouldn't say on video, because it is sometimes it's a plus. Most of the time it's a minus. When I get really angry, I sort of go into they have a blind rage, so maybe a mute rage. A mute rage because I can't talk. Like I get so angry that my brain just sort of can like if I get, when something legitimate causes me to get that level of anger, I sort of go into just like the mute button is pressed. I can't talk. I can't say anything. So I just sort of let this guy do this painful sort of cleaning out process as he's yelling at me for living in Russia, because I was just in a blind rage, mute rage, and I just could not say one word to him. So one of the problems is I came home and I have no idea what's going on with my neck, which was really bad because I was so angry I couldn't think or speak or anything. So the next day, it was the next day, because I wanted to come back and make sure they did it rather than waiting 2 days. So the next day after that, I went and saw a completely different doctor, and she had nothing to say to me. It was amazing. So I was in a good mood. I asked her a bunch of questions. She was like, yeah, everything's looking good. Rock and roll. I'll see you in 2 days. And everything was better. So that's one thing, guys, where even when you're to an extent, your health is on the line, you had this operation, you might be concerned about, the future of your neck. And this guy, all he wants to do is just call me an idiot for moving to Russia. It's like amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyways, and also a blame. Oh, man, what did he do? It was something really offensive. Like I kind of told him that, certain relationships in my life didn't work out, and he wanted to blame that on Russia too. It's like, oh, fuck off, dude. Just go fuck yourself. Yeah. So anyways, we were doing the recap. So yeah, anyways, I got on a tangent. So that's the situation with my health. I'm in sort of recovery mode, but I don't know. This really took a lot out of me. That's what happens when you get older. The stuff is harder to bounce back from. You'd think it was just nothing. It was, outpatient surgery, but man, it knocked me out real good. So on the in the first week of April, at some point, I'll be, or first or maybe second. Hold on, let me open the calendar. That's the first week of April. So first week of April, I'll be going to the State Duma to talk about the village, and hopefully something will happen. We talked about today 15-minute cities and how they're really not going to happen in Russia for a variety of reasons I've already mentioned. It's just not happening. And then I'm going to try to find a real economic expert who can talk about the digital ruble with me. In fact, as I'm sitting here, I just remember someone I used to work with at RT who's really good about economics, but really hates being on camera. Maybe I can do something voice only. I don't know. He's a good guest. Yeah, but gotta talk about the digital ruble. I'm curious myself. Anyways, guys, I hope you had a wonderful time here. Again, weird live stream. Over 10 people watching, 0 questions. Whatever, guys. As long as you have fun, as long as you had a nice time, I'll upload this video within 48 hours. So enjoy, friends. Have a wonderful evening.